remember they told my mom that she should plan for the funeral because I wouldn't make it past 6th grade.
Probably just keep your mouth shut because it actually gets you going a little bit.
Yeah, you learn never back down from anybody or any challenge.
Is there something you want to achieve before you hang up the boots?
You never want to get too complacent because you could be out of that life just like that, just as quick as you came.
Seemed like you had a bit of a chip on your shoulder, that one.
Man, we don't know if the world coming to an end or not, but I'm like, man, check ball.
Rightio, first one for the year. I'm excited for this. Bryce Cotton, Perth Wildcat, joins us in the studio. Bryce, great to have you, mate.
Yeah, glad to be here. How y'all doing?
Yeah, really good. Mate, welcome to BackChat. I know you're probably a big fan, but just in case you're not, we asked the same question to every guest that sat in your chair right now. And we know you're a great basketballer. We have seen what you can do on the court, holding all sorts of league records, MVPs, finals MVPs. Like, you are a superstar to our game. But we want to know your greatest sporting achievement, not on the basketball court. We want to know what you can do other than basketball, and it's got to be in the sporting realm. Thanks to our good friends at TABtouch partnering us with us on the podcast. We've had lots of things here. We're talking high jump. We're talking poker players. We're
skateboarding.
Pigeon trainers.
Kick flipping a 5-stair.
Okay.
Hole-in-ones in golf. I'm a state 80-meter hurdle champion.
Yeah.
Oh, respect.
Yeah, correct. Go.
5 for 16 in a cricket match. 5 wickets for 16 runs. As a
damn.
bowler. So yeah,
You don't get the respect.
Well, no, the only reason
Come on,
I
man.
don't know cricket. I don't know cricket at all, so I don't know what's a good stat or
it's
not.
basically a triple-double.
Okay. Well, much respect. Much respect.
Okay. So what have you got? Not on the basketball court. Your greatest sporting achievement. It can be any point in your life.
Okay, if we're going any point in my life, 8th grade, 400-meter city champ. I never lost a race either.
Wow.
But I never ran again after that. I kind of regret that. I wish I would have continued track just for fun in high school, because I just love running. But yeah, I'd say it's my greatest achievement.
You're a 400 runner.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hard
never
race.
Lost a race. Never lost a race.
So you never lost a race, but how many races are you running? Like, did you?
It was just 8th grade year.
Yeah,
so I
right,
couldn't
okay.
tell you.
Undefeated.
Maybe,
You're right.
I don't know, it might have been 7 or 8 races.
7 or 8.
I'll take it.
Yeah,
Those
great.
are the top ones in the city.
I don't know why, but like I don't know why I didn't think a basketballer would be like an athlete, especially like a 400, like a
runner,
middle distance. Like,
Yeah, I think just because when I was younger, I used to love to run. So my older brother played baseball, and like baseball, it can be boring to watch, especially if you're 5 years old at the time. So there used to be this older lady. I think it might have been one of the players' grandmothers or something. She used to walk the track near the baseball field, and my mom would let me go on the track with her, and I used to just run basically until the game was over.
Really?
So I think that's why I was so good at the 400, because I used to just run nonstop as a kid.
that's bloody brilliant. BackChat, of course, powered by Paywise. I'm a bit out of practice here.
No, that's all right. It's been a while since we've done all these.
Paywise, leader in novated leasing across Australia, big in the car game. So I also want to know, what was your first car, and if I can abbreviate that. And then once you started earning a little bit of sport money, did you like splash out and get a nice car? First car, and then did you get a nice car?
So for me, I've never been a car guy. My first car was a Nissan Altima. When I graduated college, I got my first car. It was that Nissan. And then
What color?
Black.
We're not car guys either. I don't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was black.
Was it pretty crap?
I like it. Like to this day, I love a Nissan. It's good on gas. That's the most important thing for me.
Correct.
And then now, like once I moved out here, the Subaru, and it's black again, black rims and tinted windows. So I usually go all black everything if I can.
Okay,
but the Subaru is good on gas. But I did have a Suzuki actually a couple years ago. Me and my wife. Well, that was basically her car, but it was kind of mine because I like driving it more. And if I can go back to a Suzuki, I might go get that one again.
Did like when you moved to Perth, did the Wildcats would have been putting you in houses? They would have had a lot of support. Did they give you a car when you came over here?
Yeah, they always gave me a car. So I'm not counting those. I'm counting the one
I just heard like a little birdie put across the desk that maybe when you first got over here, the Wildcats gave you a car and potentially you had to call them within 24 hours to tell them that you'd broken it.
No, okay, so my first practice, I think this was my second season. So the first full season, first day of practice, I'm running late. I got to fill up the gas tank and I put diesel in accidentally and the car shuts off like 2 minutes of pulling out of the lot. Like, yeah, it was bad. And I went into a panic because, the car's like shaking and I'm thinking like maybe this is just a bumpy road. And it says shut the engine off and turn it back on. So I'm like, okay, I shut it off, turn it back. I try to turn it on. Nothing's happening. So I call the manager, tell her what's going on. And she was like, okay, we'll have somebody come pick you up. And my teammate came and picked me up, and I left the car right there at the stoplight. Just left it.
What?
Yeah. And for about 3 weeks, everybody was calling me Diesel.
Oh, wow. But you've shaken that nickname.
I've shaken that nickname. I have.
Diesel.
But yeah, Diesel, it almost stuck.
That's good.
I like that. Hey, Jaden, can we put the aircon on, man?
I've got the control.
Just put it on because I'm going to steam it
If
up
you hear a
in the
slight
oven.
little buzz in the background, everyone, I'm sorry, but it's too hot.
It hasn't gone on yet.
Oh,
You can do it. What about life growing up for you, Bryce? Like, what's I don't know, what was your childhood like? How was life like in America where you grew up? What did it look like? Were you a sporting family?
Yeah, so a lot of older cousins. Everybody played a sport at some point, and basically I just kind of did whatever my brother did. It was an 8-year gap between me and him, but he played everything. So he played football, basketball, baseball, and whatever he was doing, I'd go hang with his friends. I'd play basketball, and then when my cousins would come over, or that were my age, we would play like two-hand touch or sometimes tackle. And then basketball, that's one of those sports you could play by yourself as well as all the kids in the neighborhood. So basketball was cool, but I really loved football growing up at first. Like, loved it.
Where would you, at that age, where do you play football? Are you you throwing the ball, or are you running and catching?
Honestly, whatever you needed. So I could throw, I could catch, I could run. And luckily, because you're a kid, nobody's crazy, muscular yet. So I was able to do quite a bit, but I stopped playing at like 10 because I developed a rare form of epilepsy. So that put a hinder in basically any contact sport. But they didn't know what it was for like 2 years. And by the time they found out what it actually was, they were like, yeah, no, you can't play football.
So what did they think it was at the very start? They just thought...
They had no idea.
Right.
They had no idea. I remember they told my mom that she should plan for the funeral because I wouldn't make it past 6th grade. So
holy shit.
They didn't know what it was, but they felt it was very serious.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And do you owe, did they just find out what it was and then that enabled you to live? Like, do you owe your health to someone or something, or like what happened?
I owe it to God for sure.
Yeah,
but
crazy.
basically, no, we moved around. Like any doctors we went to, they couldn't put their finger on it. When I was in Tucson, one of the hospitals actually said I was doing it to myself, crying out for attention. That was pretty crazy.
Wow.
So then we ended up moving to Texas for a little bit because I think my grandmother had a friend who had some pretty strong connections. No luck there. We moved back to Tucson, and then we went to a hospital in Phoenix, and they're the ones who found out basically it was a rare form of epilepsy, and they put me on certain medications, and they had me on it for about 2 years, and then they slowly weaned me off. But they highly recommended not going to football, and they said baseball probably wouldn't be too good either, just in case you get hit with a fastball or something.
Right.
So luckily, I still had basketball. So my mom was like, why don't you just put your all into that, essentially. And that's kind of how it stuck with that. But I loved football way more growing up.
Yeah. Well, obviously it worked out for the right way and got to pursue basketball. When you're playing basketball, like in Australia as a kid, no one's very good because like it's not like a, we all play footy and cricket and stuff like that. And, some kids play basketball, but then it must be like super competitive as a kid playing basketball back home.
Absolutely. Anything you played was super competitive because, where we grew up, it's going to be a lot of trash talk, a lot of, trying to prove who's the tougher kid or, who's cooler, whatever it may be. So you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot on how to handle pressure and to never back down from people, whether they're bigger than you, stronger than you, or not. Yeah, you learn never back down from anybody or any challenge.
So what's how do you realize that basketball is something you can pursue? Did you start to be just better than all the other kids, or what was it for you when you realized, oh, actually this could be my life?
I mean, I think early on, like I was pretty good at football, basketball, and baseball. I was good at all the sports I played, but like, where I grew up, everybody said, they're either going to the NBA, NFL, or, it was one of those two. So it was like, I'm right in line, like, okay, well, I'm going to do one of those two. But as the years, continue to go on, and I would see other kids in the city that was good, and I felt like I could hold my own against them. That's when the confidence started to build up. And my mom and my grandma always instilled so much belief in me. So it's almost like their belief in me gave me the confidence. Like if they really think I'm going to do something with this hoop stuff, then maybe I actually will.
Did you have an uncle that played NFL? Did I read that?
Yeah. So he played, I think, for 2 seasons with the Cowboys, I'm pretty sure. I can't remember if there's another team, but I know he's with the Cowboys.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Are you a Cowboys fan?
No, Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right.
Pittsburgh Steelers. So he played long before I was born and thought of. So
you're from Arizona, you've lived in Texas. How do you go for Pittsburgh?
So I've never followed the logic. You got to go for the teams where you're from.
Right.
And doubling down on that, my favorite footy team is Collingwood.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Bryce.
I love it when people react like that.
Pretty much everyone in Western Australia.
Yeah, I mean, anybody, even like in other states out here in Australia, everybody hates that I go for Collingwood. But I started watching them during COVID when it was the only sport left. And, I watched every footy game. And then I just felt like they were pretty consistent. They may not win every game, but like every game they had the same type of energy. Whereas other teams, they look great one week, terrible the next. And when I told somebody I kind of like that squad, they was like, no, everybody hates that team. You can't go for them. It's like
going for the New England Patriots.
Yeah, and when they told me that, I was like, perfect. That's my team then. Me against the world.
That's unreal. I did not know that about you.
Yeah.
Collingwood Magpies.
Mm-hmm.
This makes me a little bit sick inside, to be honest.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, that's good. So childhood. I mean, that's crazy. Your mum. Yeah, we're both parents. You told your son may not live past a sixth grade.
Yeah.
So has that shaped you, do you think? Has that shaped you and your family and how you think about things? Like, is that something?
Yeah. So I've told my mom before, a lot of things that I learned from her isn't necessarily things she's taught. It's just things I used to observe, like different obstacles that we had growing up, no matter whether it was like health issues with me or just different life things. I saw my mom would never complain, and I see things would take a toll on her, but she would just find a way to push through it and get things done. So watching that year after year, it kind of just taught me like, okay, well, no matter what you go through, you got to get through it. And there's no need in complaining or say why me or whatever the case may be. So I learned a lot from her just by watching.
Yeah, that's cool. So what does Dan asked about basketball when it starts becoming something serious for you? What's it actually look like logistically? Like, I know there's like the high school to college to the big leagues. What's that journey like for you out of high school into college? A difficult one?
Yeah. So I moved around. I went to 3 different high schools. So that didn't help a whole lot. And you have different levels. So you have freshmen, you have JV and varsity. So freshman is the first year players in high school. And then JV is for grades 10 and 11. And then varsity is essentially whoever's, I guess, the top skill. Yeah. I didn't play varsity until my junior year, and that was in Vegas, and it didn't quite work out too well for me. And I told my mom I really wanted to move back to Tucson because moving to Vegas was never my idea in the first place. And she knew how important it was for me to try to pursue my goal of continuing hoops. And I told her, at least if I move to Tucson, if you let me move back to Tucson and it don't work out, then I can live with that. I'm like, 'cause that's my decision. I said, but if I stay here in Vegas and it doesn't work out, I was like, I can't like I'll never be able to live with that because I didn't want to come here in the first place. So I'm like, if I'm following my dream, let me mess up my way or let me succeed my way. And
How old are you at this stage?
I was 16 when we had this conversation.
Pretty strong conversation.
Yeah.
For 16,
It was.
right?
And she stared at me for a second, for about 5 seconds. And then she said, okay. She said, we'll move back. Because my best friend at the time, I had spoken to him and his mom, and they had said I can move in with them. So I did all my homework before I even brought this to her. And, you know, basically she was like, I'm not going to let my son live in another state. Like, we'll move back. And credit to her for, you know, letting me follow my path, what I felt was right or what I was willing to live with, whether it worked or not. And I went on to be all state first team my senior year of high school. Graduated without a single scholarship, though. And Providence came probably a week or so before school started and offered me a scholarship, and had no choice but to go there. And yeah, I took that opportunity and ran with it.
What's Providence like? A lot of people wouldn't understand the college system. Is Providence like a school that people are trying to get to, or if you give us like a landscape of how?
So at that time, Providence itself wasn't a powerhouse school, but it was in a powerhouse conference. So it was in the Big East, and the Big East is traditionally one of the best college conferences all time. So you got your schools like Syracuse, UConn, Louisville, all those types of schools, Villanova. So like playing against like
they're the teams that like win NCAA championships and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So playing against that competition, you know, it doesn't get much better than that. And I never expected to go at that level. I always thought I'd go to one of the lower Division I schools. But even they had turned me down. So to this day, I don't understand what made Providence pull the trigger on me. But they're the reason why my journey is still going, though.
Because you were overlooked, right? Like that's how that works. So there's a big pool of kids, and they're slotting them in, and then no one wanted you, basically.
And you know, with how popular basketball is, kids inevitably are going to slip through the cracks no matter how talented they are. But I think being from a smaller city, it's not a hotbed for basketball. It made it a little bit easier for me to get overlooked. And I didn't go to a lot of camps that can give you, I guess, that exposure to a lot of college coaches. So that didn't really do me any favors. And I came to learn that the more I learned about the basketball circuit once I became like a professional.
Where is Providence?
It's in Rhode Island, so it's probably a 3-hour drive from New York.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
What's college life like as a student athlete? Are you a king, like walking around, or like?
You can be. Yeah, you can be. I think the biggest thing that I appreciated was everything is on you. So managing your time, making sure you do your homework. If you want to go to this party, handle your business first. Putting in the extra hours for practice, all that type of stuff is on you. You don't have your mom, your dad, if you have a dad, like, or whoever was, you know, raising you. You don't have nobody telling you you need to do X, Y, Z. And I loved that quote unquote pressure. And so like geographically going from Arizona to Providence is like living in Perth your whole life and then moving over to Melbourne.
Right.
And so it's like you're on this other side of the country. You've never been here. You don't know nobody. And it's on you to make this work. I love that pressure because my mom was very protective over me. And as I got older, I realized because how sick I used to be as a kid, I realized that. But at the time, I used to hate that. And I wanted my freedom. And going to college, it was my chance to prove to myself I can handle whatever comes my way, whether I'm ready for it at the moment or not.
Yeah, I was going to ask, why do you think it suited you? Because that doesn't suit a lot of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, why after that upbringing, and I'm not saying coddling by your mum, but like, you know, the way you were brought up, like, why did it actually suit you?
I think one, because I wanted that thumb up off my back and have some freedom. But two, the support again, my mom, my grand had in me, just telling me that, you know, they really felt that I was going to do what I was setting out to do. And my older cousins, older people in my family, they had their opportunities in life, and a lot of them didn't make the right choices. They took some bad turns. And at that time, for me being one of the youngest people in the family at the time, I had so many examples of what not to do and all that type of stuff. And my brother and even some of my older cousins had said to me at a young age, like, yo, you just worry about playing basketball. You don't worry about any other distractions, anything else going on in the neighborhood, like you focus on hoop. And if you have any problems, you come to me or you come to such and such. And so for me, it was simple. Like all I have to do is focus on basketball. And by the time I got that random scholarship in my mind from Providence out of the blue, it was like, okay, well, they're kind of banking, like they're kind of thinking I'm going to do it. They've been saying I'm going to do it. So as much as I don't want to let myself down, I don't want to let them down either, because it's not often that people from our city go on to do stuff like that or have opportunities to play high major sports and things of that sort.
Sounds like that's kind of followed you through your career without knowing you deeply. Like it sounds like that sort of pattern is you feel like you owe something to anyone, but you want to prove yourself.
Definitely. Just because of the support, it means a lot. And, I really pride myself in coming from Tucson. I love being from a small city and being able to experience all the things I have so far. And I think because this journey has been, such a far distance traveled so far, I don't want to ever kick back and relax. It's like, okay, well, if I made it this far, let's see how long we can make the ride last. And that's been my motto for the longest, and it'll always be that for as long as I continue to play.
What was college basketball like then, actually playing? Because a lot of guys go to college and they're trying to get drafted, right? That's the end goal. So how do you be a good teammate and play well while trying to be noticed and stuff? Because you could easily be selfish and guys in college trying to get noticed, but then also you got to do the right thing to win games, right?
Yeah, it's a dog eat dog world, and situations differ. So if you're at a school that's pretty prominent with winning, it's easier to blend in. But when you play at a school that loses more than they win, you kind of have to bank on your stats to stand out, because nobody's going to come to watch, subpar teams basically. And I didn't play a lot my freshman year, but I got to observe just kind of where everybody's mindset was at. And it's I guess it's a seesaw battle that you have of making sure you're doing what you need to do as a player, but making sure you're playing the game the right way as well. And then if you start to win, you win. But I'd say my sophomore year, I was more so looking at, I have to make my mark, because we had a coaching change. So the coaches who brought me in, they had gotten fired after my freshman year. So these new coaches coming in, bringing in their recruits, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Guys are 5 stars, 4 stars. I wasn't any star coming out of high school. So the fact that I didn't play as a freshman, it's like, I know they were thinking of weeding me out. So I kind of was on I need to do what I need to do. If we win, great. If we don't, it is what it is, but I got to do my thing. And luckily I had a breakout year my sophomore year. And then the following 2 years, we started to turn into a winning program as well. So it was the best of both worlds.
Winning in college doesn't sound like the be all and end all then to get drafted. So playing well is, and you say, would you look back on your college career and say you had a good college career? I mean, clearly you got drafted at the end of it. Right?
Yeah, I had a really good college career. It turned out great. My junior and senior year, I was first team All Big East. Junior year, I led the Big East in scoring on a torn meniscus. The next year, I was second in scoring, led it in assists, and we won the Big East championship. And we made it to the NCAA tournament, which was the first time the school had did it in over a decade. So I did a lot of cool things there, especially in my last 2 years. And to reflect back on the starting point of when I got there, just a few days, essentially a week before school starts, to being, one of the better college players that ever played at Providence, it was crazy.
That NCAA tournament, that's the knockout. That's the big March Madness.
Yep.
What's that like? Madness. I've never spoken to anyone been involved in it.
It's amazing. It's something I actually never thought about playing in, because when I first went to Providence, we was so bad. Like that was out of the question. But playing in that arena, we only played one game. We lost to North Carolina. Should have won that game, but we lost. And
they're unbelievable, aren't they?
Yeah,
isn't that Coach K? Isn't
that is Roy Williams?
Oh, sorry.
Right, but Coach K's crazy too. Yeah. But I had an amazing game. Craig Sager, who was a big time analyst back in the day for the NBA, I was playing so well, he actually went and found my mom in the crowd during the game and was interviewing her. I had 36 points that game, and that was the most they said at that time anybody's ever scored in Carolina in tournament history.
Wow.
And of all people, David Robinson came up to me after the game and asked me for a picture. And so like that was absolutely crazy. And if y'all don't know who David Robinson is, he's top 50 greatest player all time in the NBA. So
The Admiral?
The Admiral, yeah. So that was crazy. It was only one game, but memories I got to take with me for life.
That's so cool. So then after that tournament ends, is that the end of your college?
Yeah, so that
career?
was my senior. That was it. And in my mind, like I was sad we lost, but in my mind I was like, okay, I'm for sure in the NBA now. I did what I needed to do. But of course, that's not the way the story goes. I'm always overlooked. Didn't even get invited to the NBA Combine, which was wild. But I want to say the Spurs had they had about 2 or 3 picks in the second round. And they wanted to pick me for one of them. But they told me because they had won the championship the previous year, they were bringing back the entire roster. So there was no spots available, but they liked me and wanted to keep an eye on me for future reference. So they said, we'll draft you in the second round, but we'll send you overseas. Is that, like, are you okay with that, basically? So when my agent relayed that news to me, I was like, no, I'm not, because of everything I've been through in life, let alone not just college, to get to this point, and I'm so close to the finish line of making the NBA. I'm not going to pull the plug on myself and be like, yeah, you can draft me. And it's a hollow feeling knowing I'm going straight overseas with no chance to play in the NBA that season. And they had asked a couple times after one of their picks went by, they called again a couple more picks before their last one. Like, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I was sure. And I remember when I got off the phone with my agent, I snuck out my mom's house and I just went for a drive. Didn't tell anybody because they didn't know what was going on. And it was crazy having to make a split decision like that, something you've worked your whole life for, and gone through so many obstacles, and you got to make a decision like that within 1 minute, basically.
Yeah, because they're on the clock.
Yeah, do you want to get drafted or not? And, you find out what's really important to you. But luckily, later on that year, I ended up signing a couple 10 days with the Utah Jazz, and I did good with those stints, so they signed me for the rest of the year. And I had done well the last 4 or 5 games of that season because the backup had hurt his back, so I got those minutes because we weren't going to make playoffs. And I played really well. I scored 21 one game, had a couple highlights, and if I tell them to draft me, I never play an NBA game that year, so I stuck to my guns, and luckily that one worked out.
The draft and stash guys, it's pretty rare that they actually come back and get signed and play long term as well. So, to bank on yourself and do that, it's pretty cool. So then you go through the 10 days. Like, what's that feeling like being called into the office after being, your 10 days is up and you're like, are they going to go again? What's that experience
So
like?
it's a 10-day contract, is that right?
Mm-hmm. So the way it goes, if you get 2, like if you get back to back, and they want to sign you for a third, year signed for the rest of the year. And it's crazy. It's a small world. So there's a guy in the NBL now, Ian Clark. He was playing for the Utah Jazz at the time, and they had released him to keep me for the rest of the year. So they liked me enough to do that, which was pretty cool. And it worked out both ways. Anytime I bring that story up, I always have to say, Ian ended up signing with the Warriors a year or 2 later, and he won a championship with them. So it worked out for everybody. I got to, fulfill my dream of making the NBA. Ian gets to achieve the ultimate of becoming an NBA champion. So I think hindsight, he's not mad at that either.
Does he owe you one? I don't know.
Yeah. I owe him, man. My dream came true.
That's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
What's it like traveling and being an NBA player? Like, it seems so foreign from over here, and it looks so glamorous and stuff. But is it as awesome as it seems when you're in the thick of it?
Yeah, it is. It is. It has its highs and lows, I guess. But you definitely live in a different life, and you can see how people can easily become, I guess, spoiled or entitled just based off the treatment. But guys work hard to get to that point. So it's like, it's next level, but at the same token, it's cutthroat. So it's like you never want to get too complacent because you could be out of that life just like that, just as quick as you came.
Yeah. So then what happens? So you get signed for the rest of the season, and then after that season, you play again at the Jazz?
No. So, well, they had me sign a non-guaranteed, I think 2-year deal going into the following seasons. And for whatever reason, they let me go, I think, a couple games before the regular season started. So I did the D League, which is the G League now, for about 5 games. And then I got signed by the Suns, which was cool in a sense because I'm from Arizona.
Yeah.
This was around Thanksgiving, and I was there until, no BS, I was there, I think, until today, because I remember the cutoff date usually for guaranteed contracts for the year is January 7th, or at least it was that year because that's my mom's birthday.
Oh,
so basically today, a bunch of years ago, Phoenix
cool.
cut me, but I didn't have too much of an opportunity there. I just felt like I was just riding the bench essentially, but I still had more time in the NBA, and I think when I had some time to mature from that situation, the goal as a kid, it didn't matter whether I played a year, 10 years, 15, or a day. The goal was to say I made it to the NBA, and it was true, because that goal at the time when I said it, it was so far-fetched. One, for mostly any kids, but especially for me and in that city. There's only like 3 people, I think, ever that's born from Tucson to make it in the NBA.
Wow.
I'm one of them. So, and the other 2 played like when my mom was a teenager.
Yeah.
So, we never saw anything like that. So to stick to a goal like that, even though I didn't stay in the NBA as long as I would have liked, I got to where I wanted to go. So, and then now I've been over here for some time, and I'm not complaining either.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I guess from a non-basketball follower, I've sort of picked up your journey is when you came over here to Australia. You're in Turkey for a little bit.
Yeah.
People started letting bombs off. Maybe got you out of there pretty quick.
So that's when ISIS was real prominent. Yeah. So they were going crazy. And when I told my agent, like, all right, I'm ready to leave because it's just not, I don't feel safe. The options were a team in Russia or come to Perth. And at that time, I didn't want anything to do with Europe to finish the season. And I just thought I was coming here for 6 weeks because we were either second to last on the ladder or last. Yeah, one of the 2. And he was like, you'll probably just be there 6 weeks. You guys won't make playoffs, and you can reset for basically the new season, essentially. I was like, perfect. Came here just to have fun. We ended up winning the championship this year and been coming back ever since.
That's a crazy story. You get to the team. It's just been interesting listening to how you were brought up and the teams you played with, like even Providence, right? You said they're no good when we started. Well, I was just thinking in my head, like, that's what the Wildcats were, right? They were your last on the ladder. You get here. You obviously play some good basketball. Were you finals MVP that year?
Yeah, it was.
So you rolled in for 6 weeks for a bit of fun, taking a team from last to a championship, your best in the league in finals. I mean, how does that compare to, coming out of the NBA and then Turkey? And like, what's that 6-week period like? It must have been good given that you coming back.
I think, it was a whirlwind, because I feel the opportunities that I got with Utah, especially those last 5 to 6 games of the season, I did very well. Like I averaged probably about 12 points a game with those minutes. And, if you do something like that over the course of a season, you're looking at a nice career. But when I didn't stay with Utah, they cut me for whatever reason. I went to Phoenix and I never had opportunity to play. And then I'm cut from there. And then essentially I'm out of the NBA. My brain can never fathom like how or why did this happen? Like I didn't play myself out of the NBA. And so I play with a lot of frustration, a lot of rage, I guess. And coming out here, it was like, okay, I'm on a team now. They're going to let me be me. I can exert my talents. Whatever happens, happens. And I didn't want to be on a team where I work so hard every season to just rot on the bench. Like, it's not my thing, but it's like my mind at the time was, I can go out and drink and party and do nothing with basketball to sit on the bench. Like that, it takes no effort. So I wanted to be in a place where my talents could be shown, and Perth did that for me. And once I basically reignited my love for the game, it was like, oh, I gotta keep having more of this. And yeah, I've just been coming back nonstop.
Is it the Wildcats, or is it maturity, or is it something else that's helped you move past the feeling of, I don't know, is it rejection from the NBA? Like, 'cause it sounds like you've moved on from it, but like, what's helped you do that?
Just realizing you can only control what you can control, and reminding myself, like what I said earlier, the goal was to get there, and it was so far-fetched. I never took the time to think, well, how long do you want to be there if you get there? It was just like, look, if you get there, fuck. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
that's all right. You can swear on this.
If you get there, it's like,
good.
man, you've done a hell of a job. So when I reminded myself of that and all the different obstacles I've gone through, not just with basketball, but life in general, it's like, man, you got no reason to be complaining. So the same way, I felt I should have still been in the NBA. I knew people back home where it's like they know for a fact they could have been playing college ball at the bare minimum, and for whatever reason, they didn't get that break. So it's like, for the most part, everybody kind of gets screwed one way or another. That's just how sports goes. And I stopped feeling sorry for myself. But it took time. It took about 2 or 3 years removed from the NBA before I could be at peace with it. Because until then, I couldn't even watch an NBA game.
After that finals MVP performance, how long did it take for you to re-sign with the Wildcats and know that was something you wanted to do in the future?
I can't remember. I don't remember I think I waited late into the offseason, so I may not have signed with them until August, near my birthday. But I took my time evaluating, because even then, as much as I loved my experience in Australia, I didn't think I was ever going to come back, not for basketball, but I knew I would come back to visit for sure, just because I really enjoyed myself out here. But after weighing out all the options as it got later in the off season and the season's about to come back around, I decided to roll back with Perth. And then after that first full season had happened, it was like, yeah, I'm locked in.
Yeah.
I love this country.
You win MVP.
Yeah. I went on to keep doing some pretty good things. And again, it's just the joy. It really brought back the joy and love for the game that I have. Felt like a kid again.
Yeah.
Culture is something that's spoken about in sports. Like, you hear the word culture, and sometimes it annoys me because I've been in locker rooms and teams where culture doesn't really mean anything. But from afar, it seems like the Wildcats has I would say, winning culture. Not good culture, but winning culture. Is that right? Like, how do you describe playing for the Perth Wildcats and them as a organization?
Yeah, I mean, historically, yeah, they would have to have a winning culture. We've won the most championships out of any team, so culture is definitely set in place. And historically, when you look at how our championships have been won throughout however long they've been a club, the championships are won in clusters. So it's like they might win a back-to-back or 2 out of 3 years, or 1 every 3 years, and then there's like a dull period, then it'll ramp back up. And I just feel like history usually has a tendency to repeat itself. And even since I've been here, I feel like it's no different. We won 3 championships my first 4 years, and we haven't won one in the last 4 years. So I guess following history, you would hope the trend comes back around. But, you never know how it goes. But you stay true to the game and you live with the results, because even though sometimes you don't always bring home that trophy, it doesn't mean the culture's not there. You just gotta trust each season for what it is, because sometimes it takes losing to end up winning the big one.
That 18-19 season, the second championship you won, I remember there being lots of talk around the 2 import thing. You can't win with only 2 imports. It was you and Tarico, and all the analysis guys calling, Wildcats don't have enough firepower and stuff, and Bogut's winning an MVP. And can you tell us a bit about that sort of process in that season? Because it seemed like you had a bit of a chip on your shoulder, that one.
It's always there, but yeah, I think the commentators did a good job of just throwing a little extra on there that year. Some of the takes that they would have. But again, never backing down from challenges or obstacles. We took it head on. You feel like we can't win with two Americans or whatever, that's fine. I remember our Trev, he had sat us down because it was like the big elephant in the room. Is he going to bring somebody else in or not? And he said he's sticking with the guys he's got, and we have more than enough. And we're like, all right, like if this is what we got, this is what we're going to do. And to win that championship, that one was very special because all the analysts had picked us to lose. So to prove them wrong, prove ourselves right, and to send Greg Hire off on a high note, he retired that year. That was amazing.
That was I was working at the team then. You wouldn't remember, but I was working for the team then. And one of the good things of the Wildcats,
polishing the dags. What were you doing?
I was a media guy. I was working with the media guys. Anyways, the Wildcats give rings to the front office as well, like to all the staff when they win a championship, which is pretty cool. But that year, so we won that year, and then I didn't come back for the next season, so I never got my ring.
So the entire reason you're actually here, bro, is to get
It's making sense now.
you got 4.
Three. I got 3.
You got 3, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I don't know if you got 1 to spare.
So funny story, man. Our first championship we won. I don't remember when we got the ring or whatever, but it was a lot of fun. I lost my ring before I ever got back to America. I know that. So I'm still missing a ring.
Oh, you're missing
So
one?
we're in the same boat.
Oh, wow.
We're in the same boat.
Did you
You're
ever
pretty much the same person.
Yeah. We're in the same boat.
Did you put a call out? If anyone has seen it, hit you up or something.
That thing is long gone. I'm telling
Really?
you, I lost whatever day I got that ring. I lost it the next day.
All right. All right. In Perth?
Yes.
All right.
It's gotta be somewhere.
We've got a track record with this stuff. I
Okay.
promise we do. If you have Bryce Cotton's championship ring, what year?
16, 17.
If you could just bring it back with no questions asked.
Please and thank you.
Yeah, correct. And we'll give it to Dan, and Dan can wear it.
Yeah, you got that one.
I'll wear it for a bit and then I'll give it back to you.
Yeah.
It was interesting. So we'll get that back for you. All right.
All right, cool.
Lock it in.
Appreciate you.
Okay, so we're talking just before the microphones came on, and just hearing you talk about the analysts saying you couldn't win it, and you and I talking, and you said that you don't mind a bit of talk. It gets you going a bit from the crowd or opposition or whatever. And I was saying I used to hate guys like you because the crowd would get you going.
Yeah.
And so is that everyone, media, talk show hosts, whatever, opposition, probably just keep your mouth shut because it actually gets you going a little bit?
Yeah, whoever, like honestly, it's whoever starts talking, I'll find a way to feed off of it. I think it just comes from that chip on my shoulder. And again, going back to when I first started playing basketball and knew the journey I wanted to go on, that confidence from my mom and my grandma, I had that me against the world mentality. So by the time I left to Providence and I'm going to a place I don't know anybody, they don't know me, then it's really like, yeah, it really is me against the world. So now anytime anybody says something, it don't matter. Like I'm on go.
There's this there's a good clip during the game. I think it was the 18-19 season, and the commentators kept calling out the Wildcats weren't good enough, weren't going to make the playoffs. I think Bryce hits like a clutch bucket towards the end of the game and points at the commentator bench and said, "Oh, we're making the playoffs" or something like that. You gave it straight back.
Yeah,
straight back to him.
that was to Corey, man. Rest in peace.
Yeah,
that was to Corey. So.
He used to fire you up.
Corey had a lot of hot takes, man. He had a lot of hot takes, and
he was very good at his job.
But I remember saying to myself, as soon as I said that to him, walking to the free throw line, I was like, "Shit, y'all better make sure you make these fucking playoffs now." I remember saying that to myself, but yeah, like it was an extra chip. I don't want to say I needed it, but it was there, and it wasn't any scenario I had to create in my mind. And I felt like we were challenged, and I felt we was ready for it. But that was a fun year. That was a very fun year.
What about this year, mate? You're having a bit of a patch. We were meant to chat to you before Christmas, and I'd done all these notes, had to research. It's like, first guy since Andrew Gaze to hit to go 3 games 40 in a row. And then I was having a look today before you came in. I'm like, oh shit, he went 40 again.
Yeah,
you've had a nice couple of months, but the team, like, tell us about this year.
Yeah, I think for right now, we've done a really good job just trying to find out who we are, like our team identity. And we've battled a lot of injuries. Guys are starting to get back, I guess, on the healthy side of things. And this is the time that you want to do it. Towards that final stretch of the season, teams got their last 7 to 8 games, and this is going to determine where we end up for playoffs and basically the momentum you bring in too. Like, you want to make sure you're going in peaking at the right time. And we're doing a good job so far, but we got to finish strong with these last 8 games we got.
What about on the 1st of December? 59 points. Did that feel good? Or
Yeah, it felt all right. I think, dealing with that rib injury, I was out for a month, and I was so anxious to get back out there on the floor and just feeling so grateful, I guess, to be back on the floor. It was the first time I felt grateful to play basketball in a long time. And I think being hurt and sidelined for that amount of time, not necessarily knowing when I was coming back, it kind of reminded me of, the upbringings of anything could take a sport away from you. It could be health or whatever it may be. And the thought of if the injury was worse, like according to what they thought it was, at first they thought I might have like punctured my lung and all that type of stuff with the rib popping out. It could have changed the trajectory of my career. And the thought of that for an entire month, of knowing it could have been way worse than what it was, or basketball could have been taken from me, I was so excited to just be playing basketball. So I say I played a whole lot more freer coming back from
was that your first game back?
Third. So the first game back, I had 33, and I was feeling good. But we played 2 days later, and my body was just not in game shape at all, and I was winded. No excuses, though.
Yeah.
I didn't play well.
It's been in hospital for a month, but yeah.
And then Bateman scores 51 on us, sets the record on us, and it's just like, oh my God, man! Like, we were just on the bad side of things that night. Anything he threw up was in. We got beat pretty bad. And we had fever break. So we all had a week to kind of regroup and stuff like that. I got a chance to get my wind back under me, get my conditioning right. And we played Brisbane again that following week. We won convincingly. I just had an okay game. And then I remember thinking I need to be super aggressive. I didn't have in my mind I need to score a lot of points, but I wanted to be aggressive because I felt like my body was getting back to where it had been before the month I'd been out. And yeah, the rest was history. Like any and everything I threw up, it just seemed like I was just throwing rocks in the ocean.
18 from 28 from the field, 7 from 15 from 3-point range. I mean, that sounds good. 16 from 17 from the free throw line. What were you doing with the one that missed?
Yeah, I can't even remember that miss.
I'll give you a pass.
Remember that miss, man. But yeah, give me a pass. What was that stat line you said you had with cricket?
5 for 16. It was 5 wickets for 16 runs.
Yeah, so what he said, that's like that.
Yeah, right.
That's
It's a big day.
Yeah,
Big day. The other great thing about that game was you guys calling a timeout with like a second left or maybe it was like 2 seconds to run one last play to try and get you to 60.
That was wild. That was a little embarrassing, honestly, because I was cool with the 59, believe it or not. Like, yeah, I was, because I never scored nothing like that before, so I wasn't really tripping on one extra point, but that's why I ended up getting the turnover anyway. It wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
6th highest scoring game in NBL history and most since Shane Heal's 61 points in 1994. It's a long time ago.
Shane Hill. He's a character of Australian basketball.
The blonde hair.
Yeah.
Bulldog.
Yeah. Got into like fights with the San Antonio Spurs with Charles Barkley. Like, I think he got into a fist fight with Charles Barkley on the court one time.
Oh, wow.
Shane Hill. So speaking of Australian basketball, that's always been a big topic around your name and, the citizenship and stuff like that. Is that sort of done for you, that whole like idea of the Australian basketball, playing for Australia?
Yeah, it's over with.
It's over?
That's over with.
That seemed like an absolute shit show. If you don't want to speak about it, watching that from afar and having not 1 second of idea of what you actually went through, that looked like a complete disgrace.
Yeah, it was crazy, but I'm over it.
I was going to say, just speaking to you today, like, it feels like you may have been able to go, okay, well, that's what's going on, and I've tried this and it's not working. I can't control this anymore. I'm going to move on, and I'm going to and put 59 on these.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna beg to.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
be Australian,
exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
it's not that deep.
We sort of skipped over one championship that I wanted to ask you about because it was so obscure at the time, was the COVID year.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about like playing in front of no one before we started recording. That would have been so odd, like empty arena.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great watching on TV because you could hear everyone speaking, and it was it's like peering into practice almost.
Yeah.
That whole final series, can you tell us a little bit about that with Sydney and sort of that whole ordeal?
Man, I loved it. Like, for me, playing in the games where there's no crowds, it felt like you're back home playing at the park and you hear everything. You know, like in a lot of these games, especially like us or Sydney, especially at that time, we're both selling out our arena. So it's, 12, 13,000. It's loud. So even if I'm talking trash to you or you saying something to me, I don't really know what you're saying unless you're in front of my face, but I can just peep the energy.
Yeah.
When there's no crowds, I hear everything. You hear everything. If there's somebody from the bench saying something when you're shooting, like, you hear it all. So it just took me back to like the days growing up. And it's like, man, I love this. And the fact that we're playing for all the marbles, it don't get no more competitive than that. And the funniest thing, I remember joking with my cousin back home. I had told him, like, when they were trying to figure out are we still playing or whatever, I said, like, I was so dead set on, like, nah, let's play, like, whether we got crowds or not. And I'm like, man, we don't know if the world coming to an end or not. But I'm like, man, check ball. Like, let's play. Like, we'll figure out all that other stuff afterwards. Check ball. Like, so, yeah, that was a fun time. Kind of. Well, looking back, for sure, it was a fun time.
Yeah.
So what happened there? It was like
It was 2-1. 2-1. Wildcats up in the best of 5 against Sydney. And then the borders closed, and no, I don't think borders were closed at that point. But
that's not how it happened. Yeah, but yeah, they ended up deciding to forfeit. That's the words I think Lowliger used or whatever. So, but yeah, it was 2-1 at the time.
Yeah. 2-1.
An American being in Australia for so long now, you've been here since like mid-2016 or somewhere there. Like, it's getting close to a decade.
So yeah, New Year's Day is actually when I first came to Australia. New Year's Day 2017.
Right. So being here so long, when you first got here, was there stuff happening like Australian things that you were just like, what is going on here? And now being here so long, is there still things that you look at and just be like, what are these guys doing? Like, why are they?
Seeing people walk into stores with no shoes on is always was like,
I'm very close.
Like, what's going on here? That one was probably the biggest one. Like, I never got used to that because, like,
especially not near the beach. Like,
yeah, you're not near a beach. Like, you're in the city or something like that. And like, it's like, oh, okay. But yeah, but the more I started to see it, I'm like, okay, I guess this is the norm. I've still never gotten used to it, but it doesn't pique my surprise, I guess, as much.
Because I don't know what you think, but I've done a fair bit of traveling in America, and there's a lot of similarities. Like, there's a lot of differences, sure, but there's a lot of similarities in people. Like, American is like a sport.
Oh yeah,
like fanatical sport country. Like, and I know different areas aren't so much, but like that alone, the sport element, like, means Americans and Australians, there's a lot of similarities, right?
It definitely is. And like, speaking to the sporting aspect of it, I feel like the only difference is, I could be wrong. So like, using, for example, like footy, I feel like even though Australia loves footy, it's their number one sport and all that, I feel like they're more engaged with their city's team than Americans. So
Really?
like, let's say it's the NFL, right? And let's pretend I like the Arizona Cardinals. If I see Jalen Hurts in town or whatever, in theory, you're still going to go crazy because you're a fan of the league. So it's like, oh my gosh, Jalen Hurts. Whereas I feel like out here, like, let's say Mason Cox comes out here in Perth, he's not going to get the same amount of love because he's not, you know what I mean?
You're
like,
not one of us.
Fans are more married to their like home state team, whereas I think Americans, yes, they have that, but they love just the league in general. So that I feel like that's one difference.
The Perth Wildcats is a good example of that. Like, the fans here in Perth are the most parochial fan. Like they love the Perth Wildcats.
Yeah.
And if any other NBL player came over here, people would be like, "Who the hell are you?"
Right, exactly.
No one would know.
And they might be one of the best players in the league, but it's
Where's Bryce?
he's not
Give
one
me
of us.
Bryce. I
Yeah.
want Bryce.
That's the only difference I would say sporting wise, but it's cool. It shows their loyalty.
Yeah.
There
you go.
I thought before we ended, maybe having done the beginning, a bit of the stuff through career, and then what's happening now. What about like the future and the end? Maybe is there something you want to achieve before you hang up the boots? And I'm not saying that's anytime soon, but like, is there something that you seem pretty goal driven? Is there something you want to do to add to Bryce Cotton's?
Yeah,
legacy?
there's definitely stuff. I never speak about my goals. I speak about them once they're done. So
Is that right?
yeah. So
That's interesting.
I've always been like that.
I find
yeah.
that interesting.
If it's done, I'll for sure let you know. But yeah, there's still stuff on the list. And
That's cool.
I'm always gonna find stuff. Even if I tick all the boxes at that time, if I still feel like I can keep going, then I'll just find more things to do. That's what I've done throughout my career.
Do you think you'll be in Australia for your entire basketball career?
Who knows? Who knows? Like nothing I've ever predicted in my basketball journey has ever gone to plan, so I won't start now.
And what about when you do retire when you retire, what's one story you hope fans of yours, wherever it may be, tell about Bryce Cotton? What do you hope that they either remember or I remember when, or maybe you don't think like that? I don't know.
Yeah, I've never thought about it like that. I would say, if anything, maybe damn, yeah, that's a good one. I don't know. If I'm remembered at all, that's good enough. Whatever the memory is, as long as it's a good one. Yeah.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
You asked before we got on air and then we get to social media.
Yep.
But my former teammate, Nick Nananui, it had to have been before you got there, but like he was, he used to say he was a good basketballer. I never saw any of
When did he get drafted?
2 years after me, so 2008.
Right.
So he's
it
now
would have been 09, 010 or something. That this happened.
He's the number one ticket holder at Perth Wildcats now,
yes,
right?
he is.
And he
Shout
comes
out
to every
Nick.
game.
Yep. Mhm.
Clap
Same
you guys
seat,
on.
same seat.
All right, okay. So I remember being in a team meeting, which you would have been in lots of in your time here and across the journey, and it was meant to be, a review of the game. Mm-hmm. And our coach at the time, John Worsfold, was like, "Okay, guys, we're going to watch something. I want everyone to give you your thoughts. We're going to have a chat about it, and then we're going to decide what we're going to do about it." Anyway, what comes on is like the halftime show at the Wildcats game that had just been on like the Friday night or something. I don't know, Thursday night.
Yeah.
And there's like 4 people in a line, like smallest to tallest. And Nick Nat, this 20-year-old kid who's playing, this Fijian, he was anything. But at the time, he like could have been anything. Just like we didn't know what he was.
Yeah.
Like ruckman forward, like just freak. He's starting at one end of the court and he's bouncing and he does a leap over 4 people like a Jordan slam dunk. And we're playing the next day.
Right.
And our coach is John Worsfold, pretty stern operator, is like, "So what does everyone think about that?" And then everyone's dead silent, like,
yeah.
Because everyone's like, "Fuck, that was awesome." Like,
Right.
Yeah, that's the best thing I've ever seen. But everyone's looking at Woosha like, "I don't know, Woosh." And he's like, "Nick, what do you think? What do you think about that?" And like everyone's silent. And he's like, "I thought it was pretty fucking good." So my question about Nick is, does he get around you boys at all? Because he rates himself as a basketballer.
Yeah, not a lot, but there's been a couple functions we've had this year where he's showed up, so it's been good to chat with him from time to time. But yeah, I wish I was on the team at the time. That would have been cool to see somebody come out the stands and do a crazy dunk like that. That's impressive. No warm up too. It seemed like that's wild.
In casual clothes on a professional contract in another sport.
Yeah,
It'd be like Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts just coming out of the stands.
Exactly.
Yeah, shooting a 3-point. All right, it's time for social media. So that is us, interview done. But you've heard enough from Dan and I. It's time to give the questions to the people. So some questions have come in via social media. We call this social media. My last name's Schofield. Don't worry about it. So you happy with that?
Yeah, it's cool.
Vinstagram.
Who's been your favourite Australian teammate to watch and play with over the journey or import?
So just favorite in general. Okay. My favorite teammate. Oh, God, that's tough. That's tough. So favorite Aussie, it's a three-way tie, man. Like honestly, Jesse, Greg, and Damo. I mean, they were there at the start. They all looked out for me in their own ways. So I always got a soft spot for them. As far as an American, I would have to say Tarico White. It was cool playing alongside of him. We won back-to-back championships with him as well, so can't go wrong with that.
Split a finals MVP with him.
Yep, that's right. I
Yeah.
get one, he gets one.
Yeah.
This is a bit of a continuation then, I think, Absolute Carpentry and Cabinetry. Shout out as well.
The name. Is Jesse one of the smartest players you've played with? And what's he like to have on the team when things aren't going well?
Yes, he is. Jesse, you can have any question in the world, no matter how trivial it is. Jesse has the answer. And then because he's been in the league basically since it started, he's seen it all, done it all, and there's no obstacle or form of adversity you'll go through as a team that Jesse hasn't seen or been a part of. So whatever advice or words of wisdom he has, you always take it to heart because he's not talking about something he thinks or he heard of. Like he's been through it.
He may never retire. He just keeps going.
He is the Iron Man for sure, man. Like
The Iron Man.
yeah,
That's
he
good
is.
enough.
I would call him that.
Joshua Kenworthy.
Who's the hardest player you've matched up with and why?
In the NBL,
NBA, or high school?
I mean, the hardest player,
Good effort from high school.
toughest player I've ever had to guard, I would say, is James Harden. And next is
Tough one.
Yeah, he's tough. That's self-explanatory. But next is CJ McCollum. He's crazy too. Like CJ McCollum, man, it don't matter how good of defense you play, he has a counter for every move that you do. So those two are at the top.
There you go.
Both of those people seem, they're quite good names to throw
Yeah,
around. I feel
absolutely.
like it's pretty good. Mitch Robbo, 30.
What's it been like seeing the young guys get their opportunity and develop this season?
It's been great. I think, unfortunately, for some of the injuries we've had, it's created opportunities for them. And I think at this time of the season, it's kind of benefited us as a team because now they're not scared of these moments, even though some of these games are taking on a lot of significance, depending on if you win one game, you may go up 2 seeds, you lose one, you may drop. They're not scared of that moment. And I think it's because some of the games they were able to play in earlier this season.
I'm interested in this question. It's about performance and mindset. It's from It's What We Do.
How do you manage to keep yourself performing consistently at the highest level during the game or even bring yourself back into the game if you've been quiet?
I think the biggest thing is just understanding how much preparation you put into it. And for me, I always focus on intent, not results. So if my intent is to go out there and be aggressive, that means I'm looking to score. But if somebody's going to double me or if I see a guy open, I'm going to pass him the ball. And I've learned over the years, basically your intent to score creates opportunities for others when you're respected as a good scorer. So for me, I intend on being aggressive, and then what that looks like, I don't know. And I think that mental freedom of not putting pressure on myself of if I'm aggressive, that means I have to score X amount of points. No. Like sometimes it may be a game I get 10 assists and not as many points. Other times it may be 30 plus points, but the intent is always the same.
Sometimes it might be 59 points.
Yeah, it might be one of those. You never know.
Anonymous.
Can you tell us about your lion necklace?
That's definitely Greg or Damo or one of them. Nope, I cannot. I cannot. That's funny, man. That is hilarious.
Well, okay. We're gonna this is good. Okay. So this is from Anonymous as well, I suppose.
Okay, what teammates came to visit you in hospital?
I'm trying to think. When was I in hospital for them to visit me?
Your ribs, maybe? Did anyone come?
No, I was at the hospital while the game was still going on.
Should I say who
Yeah,
it's
you
from?
can say it was from.
It's from M Norton 8.
Oh, Money Mitch, man. Shout out. That's
Did
my
he come
guy.
and visit you? I feel like he's trying to insert himself into the hospital?
I feel like he did. I'm drawing a blank because there was another time I was in the hospital, but my memory's fuzzy because I might have still been off
painkillers.
Yeah. But if anybody would have been there, it definitely would have been Mitch, man.
Look, the last question's from Mitch as well. Mitch, not Nate. And I'm not going to say the word, but he's asking you to say a word. Can you please say? I'm just going to spell it, and you can say it because I don't know what you're going to say.
Well, just say what it is.
I think I know what it is.
Like a type of red wine.
Yeah, the type of red wine.
Shiraz.
Shiraz.
Yes. Man, shout out Mitch, man. Yeah, that's my guy right there. I love Mitch, man.
Shiraz. There you go, Shiraz.
Shiraz.
Shiraz. Is that just is that what everyone calls it, like at home or something, or is that just your own spin?
So I heard Greg Heyer say that one time, probably my third year here. He was like, oh, he's going to have some Shirazes. And I was never really a drinker. I definitely wasn't drinking red wine at the time. So when he said it, I'm just like, oh, I guess that's what it is. And then it became an inside joke. So now I always just say Shiraz.
Do you drink wine now?
Yeah, I have a little bit of red wine now for sure.
We'll have to have you down at the Urban Winery in Fremantle.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
So Mitch said, ask him if any teammates came to visit him in hospital. If he forgets me, I'll be heated.
Hey Mitch, I'm sorry, man. Hey Mitch, I got a lion necklace for you for your birthday coming up, man.
I don't know what inside joke we got on here, mate. That's us. We're done. Did you have fun?
I sure did.
Thank you for coming in.
We're gonna not only thank you, Bryce, but thank our sponsors. Thanks to Paywise powering the podcast, ID Athletic, Whippersnapper Whisky, Mamba Digital, TABtouch, Shelter Brewing Co, Leaderville Precinct, On One Services, formerly known as West End Plumbing. You can find all of our stuff at backchatstudios.com.au. Find everything to do with the podcast at backchatpodcast.com.au.
More sponsors than the Perth Wildcats basketball court.
You bringing them out?
Correct. We'll have to fix you up with some of them. Thanks again, mate. We appreciate the time.
I appreciate the time. This was fun, man.